Okay, so why don't we start by you catching me up on how you've been feeling since the last time we saw each other?
I mean, I've mostly been feeling the same. Really, I think I'm really upset. I have been having the continual thoughts that I just can't get anything right. I just fail at everything.
Okay, so you seem pretty down still. You haven't been really making too much progress. You seem upset still, and so why don't we try doing what we call a daily thought record? Um, we'll go through and you will look at any times during the day where you kind of felt your mood change for the worse. And then we'll look at those situations, kind of what led up to it, and then how you felt after it. We'll analyze them and see what are the emotions you felt after, what are the thoughts you were having after, and if we can kind of change them around. So, why don't you why don't we do one for today? And then maybe this is something that you could continue if this is something that you feel works for you. So, why don't we try and pick out at least one time today where you thought something negative, where you kind of noticed that your mood was getting even worse?
Right, I was doing my math homework earlier, and I was having a lot of trouble with it. I've always had trouble with math, and this section was particularly hard, and I just completely felt like I was getting everything wrong.
Okay, so we'll start with that. So that was the first situation. You were doing your math homework. You seem to be having trouble. Now let's talk about the what we call the automatic thoughts that came from that. When you were starting to have trouble with it, what are the things that popped right into your mind? The thoughts that just came to your head.
I was thinking things like, oh my god, I'm getting everything wrong. How am I going to take a quiz on this? I'm going to fail the quiz if I have to take one because I don't think I'm doing anything right.
Okay.
Complete, just not doing well in the course in general.
So then, what did the emotions feel like with those thoughts? How did that make you feel?
I was very concerned about the course itself. It made me concerned about like my overall grade.
So you were worried, kind of? All right. Did it make you feel anything else?
Worried, anxiety.
Okay, a lot of anxiety then. All right, so we'll say that's kind of the biggest one, is that you feel a lot of anxiety when you get to those kinds of emotions. Um, so let's kind of try and take a look at how those thoughts might not be right. Is there any evidence that you weren't doing the homework right?
Not necessarily. I asked some of my friends and they hadn't sorted it yet, so I didn't have anyone to compare it to, so not really. I just didn't feel confident in my work.
Okay. So what do you think about the fact that you were the first one to have even started the work?
It makes me feel dedicated as a student.
That's a good thought then. So why don't we try and incorporate that into your thoughts? You were more dedicated in terms of when you were trying to get your work done. You knew it might be a little bit harder, right? Is that something you thought beforehand?
Yeah, I figured. I know I always struggle, and I know this is a new section that we just started, so I should set aside this time that I had to do it because I have a busy weekend ahead.
Right. So, well, let's put that as something that was positive. So why don't we try and do a positive and a negative kind of about the homework there. So a positive was that you were trying to get it done early. And another positive even might be that there was no evidence to say that you were doing it wrong. What other things do you think about that?
About what could be a positive?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. There was no evidence I was doing it wrong. I was the first person to do it. I haven't been doing, overall, I haven't been doing that bad in the course itself.
Okay. So it's kind of another to go along with the there was no evidence.
We had homework on a similar section, just this was a more complex version of yesterday's homework,
Mm-hmm.
more in depth, and I got all of it right when we were correcting in class today.
So that's even almost evidence that you were probably doing this right. You were just kind of maybe concerned that you might have been doing it wrong. So again, we'll put this in the positive side that you might have been doing it right, in fact. Why don't we talk about the worst case scenario and then the best case scenario? What would be the worst case scenario if you were doing the homework wrong? What if you hadn't done so well?
Then, when I go to school, I would find out that I got it wrong, and I may need some extra help prior to taking a quiz to see if I can understand it better. The worst case would probably be having to stay after for extra help at the moment.
Okay. Would this, do you think, overall affect your grade too much?
Well, if I just did bad on one quiz, I suppose not too much.
Okay. So then let's talk about the best case scenario.
The best case would be that I was getting most of them right, and I'm going to do fine on the homework, and if we have a quiz this coming week, I'll do fine on that.
So that's really good. Why don't we talk about somewhere in the middle, kind of maybe what's more realistic? Maybe you didn't get all of them right.
Yeah, most realistic would be that I got a bunch right, a few wrong, but when we go over in class, I'll understand where I went wrong.
Right.
And with some more practice, I'll be comfortable.
And I think probably in the most realistic situation, in comparison to the worst case there, we'll probably say that it didn't really affect your overall grade. This one homework assignment, even though it might have been hard, wasn't going to affect too much how you were doing overall. And as we talked about, you seem to have some evidence that you've been doing okay overall. So, what do you think this has? How do you think this has an effect on what your negative thoughts were that you were doing so badly? Can we adjust those thoughts to something else now?
Like, adjust them to positive thoughts?
Well, what do you think the evidence shows from that? Now that we kind of went through them, worst case and best case.
I'm kind of overreacting and definitely expecting the worst out of the situation when it will probably turn out fine.
I think that's probably accurate. I think that we'll probably aim for a more realistic view of what's going on. And you were kind of pointing out that you were thinking that you were a failure at everything. So why don't we pinpoint the cognitive distortion there? You know, the dysfunctional way of thinking. I think that's kind of an overgeneralization. What do you think?
Yeah.
You're kind of taking, at least in this situation we pointed out where you're having issues with just the homework or, with worrying about how you're going to do on your quiz maybe because you're worried about the homework. But you're maybe not a failure at everything because like we've already seen, we went through and we saw you're probably doing pretty well in your class as it is. Or at least, you're doing okay. Do you think that's kind of an accurate statement?
Yeah. Like, my anxiety about this one assignment just snowballed into me thinking that I'm going to completely fail the course when I'm doing all right in it.
Yeah. I would think that's pretty accurate. I agree with that. So do you think that doing these daily thought records and going through and sort of looking at the situation and the thoughts and the emotions that come with it, and then trying to look at changing those thoughts and emotions, do you think that was helpful for you?
Yes, I do think so.
Do you think if you did this on an everyday basis that you'd kind of be able to see this would give you more evidence that you're not a failure at everything and that You're doing well in school.
Yeah, I think over time I'd be able to kind of change my way of thinking.
Good. So why don't we do that for homework? Why don't you do those for homework at least once a week, maybe? Or, try and get one down every day until I see you the next time. And then we'll see if this helps you improve till the next time I see you.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.